Homestead, podcasting live from deep within the Ozark Mountains at an elevation of 2,200 feet. It is 8 Central, 9 Eastern, and it's good to be back. We got a jam-packed show for you today. And lots to talk about when it comes to real estate and buying land. So I hope you're going to be able to stick with us and you're going to have a fun time tonight. So a lot of people in the chat room seeing the topic to be discussed tonight, and they're already chatting it up. So that's fantastic. All right, guys. This is Morella's first show live. So we've done some other videos, and I have the camera backed off over there. And so it's going to give us more of a show, a view of the studio that we have. So we don't really, I mean, this is a green screen back here, if anybody's ever seen that. That's a green screen. I haven't used it really. I have to find a reason to use it. I just haven't found a reason. What's
it for, honey? Tell him.
So I can put I can put any background back here I want to, and that's what the people will see. But it's actually just a green screen. And yeah, so it's kind of a far away view. Normally the camera's like right up front, but I have it kind of far away this evening, tonight's show. So we're going to talk about real estate. You're a realtor?
Yes. I'm a real estate agent licensed in Ohio.
Mm-hmm. Soon to be Arkansas.
Soon to be Arkansas. We can't wait. An American Homestead Realty coming soon.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yes, we will be.
Yes. So, and so she brings a lot to the table when it comes to talking about, land stuff. And with the economy the way it is, and the comments that I see on the channel so often, I ask the question, should someone be buying land right now? Because it's kind of a tumultuous time in the economy, and there's a lot of people who are looking to buy homesteads. A lot of people moving out of the city, so this is a big topic right now.
Yes,
of people trying to move out. In fact, there was an article today I saw where all these people are moving out of the state, out of the blue states, and moving into the red states, and the people in the red states are just beside themselves, saying, don't bring your voting policies here. Like, there was an article that's written by some guy who saw a post on Twitter from a guy who was moving out of California and who decided, because of all the craziness in California, because of the high taxes and the crazy crime, I'm going to move to Miami. And yes, Miami has some weird politics there. The people own guns, how that's scary that is. And, there's just some scary things going on in that red state. But, it's better than California. So he's bringing his California voting mentality to Florida. And people in Florida saw this tweet, and it actually gained national attention because there were some really popular individuals who said, don't move here.
Yeah.
Don't. Stop.
Keep your ideas there.
Yeah, you're the reason this is better is because we don't vote the way you do there.
We don't have those ideas, and they don't want them.
Yeah. So anyway, that's why, and there are people who are smart, who are switched on, who know, and that the reason the ship is sinking in these places is because of the voting, and they want to get out and they want to move to places where they can vote and be a majority, and so they're moving to places, red states. This is one of them.
Yeah.
And so this is why the topic is coming up a lot. I want to buy land. Should I buy land right now? Because right now the market is as high as it's ever been.
It is at its height, which is a little bit scary. Values are maxed out, absolutely.
All right, so
people don't know what to do.
You got this. You had this email that came through from someone you knew, and it kind of gave a synopsis, I guess, of where we've been and where we're going.
Yes. So basically, it's a predictor of experts in the real estate world about where we're headed and what this last year looked like. So I thought it was interesting that the residential market went up 18% between fall of 2020 and 2021, which normally houses do go up, but only about 5%. So that was quite an increase in the residential.
So normally it's 5%,
values.
But it went to 18.
It went up 18% this last year. And so what experts are saying now is that values are not going to go down. They're not going to go down, obviously, unless we have the crash that we're all expecting.
Right.
But they look for them to kind of revert back to the normal 5% increase.
Right.
On residential.
Yeah. So not go down, just continue a slow up.
Continue the slow up, more of the normal increase that we see each year, which is the 5%. They're also wondering, is it, right now we're in a seller's market. If any of you have been out there, we have such low inventory. Are they expecting more inventory to come on the market? they think maybe there might be more inventory.
Because people see the high prices and they want to get out of things, or what?
They do. It's that, Zach, we have a lot of that older generation that they are wanting to obviously get out at the top of the market because that's the
Buy
wise
low,
thing
sell
to do.
high. That's what you do in economies.
They've waited for this moment, to get that the value out of the land that they've been sitting on. And so a lot of the older generation are selling their properties. But it's a tough decision to say, do I want to pay the highest price for this property? Interest rates are still historically low, which is really cool, 3.5 to 4%. They're looking at maybe a slight increase this year, maybe go to 4.5%, but still kind of maintaining with those historically low interest rates. This is what the experts are saying.
Right.
So take that with a grain of salt.
You all know about experts.
We do not give we are not financial advisors.
Yes.
We do not give financial advice. We are for entertainment purposes only.
Yes, this is not financial advice. Yeah, if you're taking any of this for financial advice, you just deserve to be beat to death with hammers. But we're not that show. So if you want a financial advice, go find someone else. Financial advisors, licensed financial advisors, we are not. But I think all of this is really interesting to talk about because people are commenting a lot on our channel, asking questions about buying land right now, looking for land. Because the reality is, if you own land, if you owned a home outright somewhere in California, even a small home there, a cottage can get you, $1 million.
Easily, yes.
And you bring $1 million to some of these red states, where in a more rural area, you can buy a mansion and a lot of land.
You can.
And
even now with the prices.
Right. Yeah, even now with the prices. And so this is what's causing, and land prices here, since we've moved here, have at least tripled. I would say tripled. I'd say safe, doubled for sure, tripled mostly tripled here. The land prices.
The land prices compared to the residential increase that I quoted at 18%, land prices were as high as 50% increase in the last year, between 30 and 50% on a lot of the land.
That's the land prices, yeah.
That's on the land. Land has always, as most of you probably know, has always been a solid investment.
So where we come down at is, now that you've seen, okay, this is the increases, and the experts say it's going to taper a little bit and kind of keep going up slowly. And the old adage, the basic economics is buy low, sell high. You don't buy when the market's at a high. You sell at that point. You don't buy, you sell. So what about people who want to buy? What do they do? And if this was me, so that's the only way I can phrase it, because I'm not a financial advisor. The only way I can phrase it, or we can phrase it, is what would we do if we were looking for land, if we were trying to get out of something, in the city or one of these other places and try to buy land. What would we do? Because the reality is, you want to get out. You see a collapse is coming, and a lot of people don't believe a collapse is coming. So I wanted to go through some articles here, and let me get. So there's an article that was written by Frank Gustra. Let me pull this up for you guys.
Hey, I wanted to throw a question out so I don't forget. Somebody was wanting to know, why are so many people coming to the Ozarks? So I don't know if you want to address that now or later, but it might be something for some of the viewers.
Because they give away free peaches here. Everyone knows that. It's the peaches. Everyone gives away free peaches. All right. We'll maybe talk about that later.
Okay.
So the Fed's big lie that much of the world has bought into. Frank Gustra is someone I've followed on a number of investment channels for a while, and he's really fun to read. So I'm not going to read all this article, because if you guys want to go check this out, you can just search for it. The Fed's big lie that much of the world has bought into. But it gives you, because there are people who will comment on my channel, say, Zach, you keep telling me about a collapse. It's not going to happen. Okay, just fine. If that's what you want to believe, just stick with me for a minute. It says, we're living in an era that is undeniably confusing. Let me zoom that in for you guys so you guys can follow along. By veteran, I mean someone who has been, especially to veteran investors. By veteran, I mean someone who has been around long enough to have witnessed a number of market cycles, or at the very least has dusted off a few books on economic history, very important. It almost feels as if there is a universal collective denial of the obvious facts. And truthfully, I believe there is something much more insidious at play. And the precarious state of the U.S. financial system is, in fact, known to those who pull or influence the levers of monetary policy. For the better part of 20 years, I have been pointing to the actions of the U.S. Federal Reserve as the root causes of market and housing bubbles, inequality, and more recently, high inflation. What started out as the occasional Fed reaction to a series of financial crises in the late 1990s evolved into a permanent free money policy that has only benefited Wall Street and the very wealthy. When the inevitable happened and the housing bubble burst in 2008, the Fed and the government's misguided attempts to bail out the financial system led us into a much more dangerous place. I believe we are now at a point of no return that is unprecedented in history. In the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis, the then Fed chair, Ben Bernanke, promised the markets that the unwinding quantitative easing and normalizing interest rates would be possible. I begged to differ at the time, pointing out the mathematical improbability of achieving either without causing another crisis. I predicted that near zero rates and a series of QEs, quantitative easing, were here to stay. In the dozen years since, they didn't prove me wrong and predictably have only made matters much worse. By keeping rates at near zero and adding several $1 trillion to the Fed's balance sheet, the math now makes any return to normality literally impossible. There is simply too much debt in the global system. Normalizing rates would implode the entire system and most asset classes. Remember, we just talked about maybe the rates would go up a little bit.
Yep.
That's what he's saying. He's saying that's impossible. Okay. Mm-hmm. But if you listen to Fed Chair Jerome Powell, along with almost any of the Wall Street talking heads, you would be led to believe that the current $120 billion U.S. monthly QE, so basically what they're doing is they're pumping $120 billion into the economy, free money into the economy as giveaways. Mm-hmm. That's what quantitative easing is. They're basically pumping that much money per month, and that rates can eventually be normalized. In turn, the markets trade as if these words are gospel. It's as if everyone wishes to be blissfully ignorant of several annoying facts. Okay, I'm not going to read too much more, but stick with me. The facts, among other things, are that global debt has more than doubled since the 2008 financial crisis to $300 trillion. $300 trillion. Now, let me take a quick break. Now, remember years back, put on your history caps. Remember years back, 2004, 2005, the federal deficit reached $400 billion. The federal deficit reached $400 billion. And Nancy Pelosi, who was Speaker at the time, threw a conniption, or she was maybe the minority leader at the time, I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. But she was head of Congress, of their party. She threw a conniption that George Bush had reached a deficit of $400 billion. This is from Nancy Pelosi's website. The budget deficit for this year is a record $427 billion. And she called it reckless and irresponsible. $427 billion of a deficit. Mm-hmm. The U.S. deficit for this year is expected to hit $2.8 trillion. Mm-hmm. They were throwing a fit for $400 billion deficit. Now we're at a deficit of $2.8 trillion. And see, time passes on for all of us. Mm-hmm. And we just, life goes on. We're not paying attention. Yes, it's, and the parties, left or right, doesn't matter. They throw a fit whenever the other party does something, but they're both spending like drunken sailors. Mm-hmm. Okay? We've gone from a 400 reckless, deficit, $400 billion to $2.8 trillion. And it's just like,
That's insane.
It's no big deal. Whatever. All right, let's go back to the article real quick. Everyone is levered to the hilt. Corporations, hedge funds, individuals, and most importantly, governments. U.S. federal debt has tripled since 2008 and is now touching on $30 trillion. In 2020, the U.S. government spent $371 billion on interest payments on debt. That's just the interest. For 1 year, just the interest payments were $371 billion. And that's at near zero interest rates. If the Fed allowed interest rates to rise in any material way, which they're saying they're going to try to do, the U.S. government would either default or more likely enter an endless cycle of money printing. So if they raise the interest rates, default, okay, because they can't afford the interest on the debt.
Right.
If they money print, instead, continue the QE, you have hyperinflation, which we're heading towards now. Even at current rates and with the ongoing multi-trillion-dollar annual budget deficits, the die is cast. We have clearly sailed past the event horizon of an enormous black hole. It's a mathematical certainty, ladies and gentlemen, that this is going to collapse. Now, there's a lot more to this article. You can read more of it on your own. I'm not going to go ahead and get into it. But if you want to, Frank Gustra, again, is a good guy to follow. I highly recommend finding this article and reading it for yourself if you want to. But like he said, the die is cast. We have sailed past the event horizon. There's no turning back at this point. We are going to have a collapse. And And while there are experts out there that tell you, oh, that's just hyperbole, and we're not gonna, oh, that's doom and gloom, stop selling fear, and history is a guide, and we see this. We have seen this throughout history repeated. When a country or a nation inflates its currency or devalues its currency the way we have, collapse is inevitable. And we have racked up so much debt that it's inevitable. Mathematically speaking, it's inevitable. I don't know how long they can continue to put Band-Aids on our economy, but so this, to bring it all home, this comes down to you and me. What do we do? Because there are people out there like us who want to buy, land. You want to go buy land, and you're looking at land, and the prices are the highest they've ever been, and we're looking at a really probable chance of a collapse.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If this was you and me, I think if I had the money in the bank and I would unload whatever I could unload. Mm-hmm. If I had a piece of property, I would unload that, and then take that and put that either. 'Cause it's hard to keep it in cash or all in cash. Because right now we're inflating at a rate of supposedly 6%, 6.4, whatever percent is the inflation rate. You and I both know that prices of groceries and prices of everything out there has gone up way more than 6%. And we're looking at more like probably 20%. Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at stuff at the supermarket, we're looking at 20% easy. Mm-hmm. That's how the CPI is measured. Okay, I forget what CPI stands for, but CPI is measured in certain ways to lower and make it look better than it really is. So, knowing all that, what do? I think that the best thing you can do is maybe take some of that, put it in something tangible. Maybe put some of it in cash, even though you know you're going to be losing a percentage of buying power if you keep it in cash. Putting something tangible, hard assets, gold and silver. Maybe even some crypto, something, Grandma always said, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Correct.
Grandma was smart.
Grandma was very smart.
Yes. So don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Listen to them.
Yeah, but put some things into some hard assets. And in the comment section, we had Bill Gates brought up.
Mm-hmm, we did.
Before the show started.
About all the property that he owns. People are concerned about feeding the beast, so to speak, buying properties that he owns.
Yeah, and this came out this last year, I think, that he had bought a ton of farmland. Mm-hmm. And everyone's like, oh, he's going to control the food supply. And it sells well. Again, fear sells.
Yes.
Right? So,
yeah, it does. Gloom and doom, fear always sells.
The reality is he only owns, let me go ahead and show you the article here. Go back to the screen. So Bill Gates tells Reddit why he's bought so much farmland. And he says, the answer is this. My investment group chose to do this. It's not connected to the climate. Because everyone was like, does this have anything to do with climate change? Or, he's like, no. My investment group, because I think Bill Gates ought to be placed into some jail dungeon somewhere and never be heard from or seen from again. Okay, he's an evil man, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah, but I don't think he's trying to control your farmland. There's over 900 million acres of farmland in America. And he only owns a very, very small, tiny percentage of it. And most of the land that he owns, of the 300,000 acres that he does own, is like desert land. Okay, so what's he doing? He's not doing it. He says, my investment group chose to do this. Mm-hmm. And so what he's doing is he's trying to find somewhere, his investment group is trying to find somewhere, anywhere, to put his money so it does not inflate away. He has cash on the sidelines. He has cash in investments in paper. He's trying to put things into tangible assets, land, because land never goes to zero. Gold, silver never goes to zero. Never has, never will. Land, gold, silver never goes to zero. He's trying to put his money into places where it will lose the least in the coming collapse that we all know is coming. Okay, so don't let the scare stuff, the news out there, frighten you that Bill Gates is going to control our food supply and all this stuff, especially if you choose to own your own land. So what do you think?
Well, we have some people commenting about banks closing. I've noticed that too at home. Banks are merging and banks are closing, and so I didn't know if you read
some of the smaller
articles,
banks,
or had any comments about that. But I think that is definitely a result of what we're seeing, despite what they're trying to do and how they're feeding the economy. That happening is not something we've really ever seen before.
A lot of the banks are trying to figure out their new place in this new world because there is a change coming. We were talking about this the other day, about the CBDCs, the central bank digital currencies that are coming online right now. And the Federal Reserve has theirs, it's already made, but what they're trying to do is figure out how do the banks play a part in that CBDC, because what they're going to do is they're going to start giving money directly to people through a central bank digital currency, a digital currency not like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is decentralized, but their currencies can be, you can download a wallet and get your CBDCs, your new digital dollars into your wallet, and they can make it to where it expires after a certain amount of time. You can only spend it on certain things. You'll be tracked like no time in history. But what does that do for the banks? Because today, you get your money deposited into a bank. And with crypto, you are your own bank. That's why they hate Bitcoin.
Yeah, the banks are going to be, they're not going to be effective.
Yeah,
that's what's happening.
They're not needed anymore.
They don't need them anymore. Everything's virtual. Everything's electronic. And so the banks have already been hurting for a long time because of that. And so with this change, all these changes, they're continuing to do that. But I was going to say...
Yes, Consumer Price Index. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, CPI,
Consumer
CPI.
Price Index.
I can't remember the CPI. Yeah, Consumer Price Index.
I thought I'd put that on there so people... It just doesn't come to you sometimes.
Yeah.
When you're trying to think of a word. Someone was asking, honey, how you feel about bankruptcy. So I don't know if you want to address that. I know there's a lot of people probably in really hard situations right now that can't even think about buying land, but they're on here. Maybe they're wanting a homestead, they're wanting to buy land, and they're asking these questions. Maybe
I think bankruptcy is a viable option. Listen, use this. If you have to use the system to get out of the system, do it. Understand that if you go through bankruptcy court, this is speaking from experience. Me and Jamie went through bankruptcy court before we first moved on this homestead, right when we first moved on the homestead, and we didn't have a lot of assets, okay? And so it was fine for us. They basically told us we were judgment proof, and they granted us the bankruptcy. But if you do have assets, like new cars, new house, stocks, bonds, things that, are of significant value, they will try to they may consider confiscating some of these things in order to sell them in order to pay off the debtors, if debtors come forward. It's just depends. Everyone's situation will be different when it comes to bankruptcy. But I always believe, listen, if you have a mountain of debt and if you can use the system to get out of the system, do it. I am not one of these old school people who are like, oh yeah, just stay a slave forever, and because the reality is interest rates make you a slave, and oftentimes, and this was our case too, we were paid off long after we still owed money. So we were paid off of our debt, and they took a look at that. They look at how long you've been paying your debt, and they see the interest you paid. And they're like, if they see that you've paid off your debt, even with accrued interest, they'll let you go. The bankruptcy court will grant you the bankruptcy. So it's these companies' ways of making you a slave forever. If you can get out of that those chains, get out.
Yes,
do it.
We understand. There's people that are young, newly married. They have no idea what they're getting into. They're locked into these variable rates and things where they will never stop paying the interest. And sometimes life experience is the only thing that can teach you that. So, yeah.
They prey on you because they know you're inexperienced. They know that schools aren't teaching you this very
Just like
well.
Student loan debt, same thing.
Same thing.
A lot of the kids have no idea when they're going into that how long they're going to be paying on these things.
Right.
So, like Zach said, yes, for us, I have a house, as most of you probably know, that we are trying to sell. And, our plan for that, it's free and clear. And so our plan for that is to invest in different things. Gold, silver,
hard
assets, and hold. If I found I think if you found the perfect piece of land, if you have the resources, if it's worth that to you to pay, at the top of the market, if you have that kind of money, then do that. If you don't have land, I think having land is valuable to the individual because of what we know is coming. To be resourceful, to have livestock, to grow food.
Yeah.
But I would not recommend, babe, I think you would agree, to go into debt to buy a bunch of land.
You're going to be so. If a crash happens, you're going to be so in over your head.
You're going to lose it.
You're going to lose it anyway.
I mean, we may all lose it in the end, but we want to try to be resourcul and sustain as long as possible.
And be a student of history. You can go look throughout history where these things have happened before. In serious catastrophic scenarios, it's happened before. How can you survive these things and even come out on top with these things? You're not going to get rich, I don't think. I think everyone's going to have to take a bite of that certain sandwich that we're thinking about. But I think that in a scenario, for example of someone who has nowhere to go, who has assets, you want to sell the assets and then go ahead and put those assets into something hard and then wait. Or maybe let's just say you've got a couple $100,000 from a place you've sold, and you want to move out to somewhere where it's a lot less low cost of living, and some of these red state rural areas that people are moving to, and you move out there, you buy something small,
yes,
on the edge of a town, maybe an acre,
yes,
and then you put the rest of that into some hard assets, and then you just wait.
Yeah.
Or maybe you find somewhere to rent. We know people who have they're in RVs.
Yeah, lots of people here do that.
In trailers and stuff like that?
Yes. It's hard to embrace when you come from suburbia.
It's hard to stay in those.
Smart.
Some of them, the families have struggled to stay in there long term.
Yeah.
They're like,
especially a lot of them have bigger families. And it's a sacrifice. It's something that's not easy to do. But their goal, obviously, is to be debt-free, to live in that temporarily. So that would be our recommendation, too, is don't go in debt, for a lot of land.
Or pay it
live
off
in
very
an RV,
quickly.
buy an acre or two, find someone to stay on their property in an RV or something, and save until you can buy land. And like Zach said, if you have extra, invest that in hard assets and hold, because this cannot sustain. We know that.
Yeah.
History tells us that.
If a collapse happens, there's going to be lots of opportunities to buy. Okay, you buy when there's blood in the streets. The old saying goes. They say that I forgot the guy who said that, but you buy when there's blood in the streets, and it's true. And so if a collapse happened, in fact, I was telling you, I think a couple weeks ago or a week ago, about our county paper publishes the delinquent taxes every year in one of the papers. It comes out every year, and this year was double the amount. Normally it's around 4 pages or so. It was like over 8 pages this year of delinquent taxes.
That's another thing, Zach, even just waiting temporarily, because a lot of the government stimuluses are stopping. A lot of the promotions that they did on holding interest for these homeowners is ending beginning of the year. And so a lot of these people, you're going to start seeing their homes go into foreclosure because they can't, they're going back to paying that interest and they can't do it.
And so who knows when this tips over. We don't know. Maybe it goes on for a while. I mean, I can't believe 2008. I thought was it. That's one of the reasons that propelled us to move Offgrid, and to get out here. And it took us a few years to finally make that jump. But I saw it back then. I can't believe we survived the economic downturn in 2008. And they applied Band-Aid after Band-Aid after Band-Aid on top of the situation. And maybe they'll keep doing Band-Aids for a while.
Yes, but Band-Aids don't hold. And so, as you know, we're still suffering the ripple effect of 2008. And yes, as a real estate agent, the market, we are so far past when a downturn should have already happened. It tried to happen in 2008. They are giving us this false idea that everything's okay.
Which reminds me, we still need to watch that movie, The Big Short.
Yes.
we talked about we watched the trailer, and it looked pretty good.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it's rated. Maybe I don't know, but it's
careful what you're recommending.
Yeah, I'm not recommending that movie.
Let me see what it's rated.
Yeah, comments.
The Big Short.
Comments in the put a comment in there if you've seen The Big Short. But it's a movie that was made, I think, about the 2008 housing crisis, and how it was a true story about a guy who came out and said, I'm going to bet against this market because this market's going to crash. And everyone told me he was crazy. And at first, he even lost some money, I think.
Says it's rated R.
It's rated R. Okay, so maybe it's because of why is it rated R?
I don't know.
Why is it rated R?
Probably language, maybe. Oh, brief sexual content,
including
and some nudity.
And scene of drug use and pervasive. So language. So all right, never mind. Just forget everything I just said.
Yeah. Delete.
Anyway, it was a movie about a true story about a guy who said, you know what, I'm seeing what's on the wall here, and I'm betting against the market. And at first, everyone laughed at him. He at first lost some money because he bet you can short the market. It's called The Big Short. And but he came out huge in the end. It's a true story of a real person. So, how do you say that? Bono or Squee Bono says that's a great movie.
Someone said not for kids though.
It looks like you're taller than me where we were sitting. The way the camera is angled right now.
I was kind of worried about that. Zach's taller, just to keep so he can keep his man card. He's taller. Zach is 5'10". I'm 5'7". We're good.
Okay.
So
that's funny in the comments.
I don't know, maybe you already mentioned this, I was kind of reading when you were talking, but if you have a lot of land or property, man, I would unload. I would capitalize on this
This was me.
This is crazy.
If this was me, we're not financial advisors, right?
No, we're not.
Yeah, if this was me, I'd be getting everything paper. Everything paper if I could. if you want to keep something into something solid, real estate is solid. It's never going to go to zero, right? But at the same time, we know there's a crash coming.
Yeah.
That's why Gates and these guys are putting their money in those things. It's because they know land never goes, it's never worthless. And you're trying to put your money into anything that's going to hold some value during a collapse.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Zach and I, we've talked about this a little bit before we were going to do the show tonight. And, if you're in a city or you're in an area, you're in a, busy place, you need to get out. We're not saying not to do that. We're saying to do that. But
strategically.
Maybe, lower your expectations for a little while.
Find
and
something
wait for
small.
the right time.
Find something small. Find something you can rent maybe out in the, out somewhere where you can find maybe where some friends are living now. Where you can have some fellowship and some community with some people, but get something small and then just wait, and then hold those assets and then wait for the right time to buy when there's blood in the streets, because it's going to come, and it could give you an opportunity to get something a little bit better. Because from the very beginning, I've said, people, I'm just trying to find a place where I can dig a hole, get my family, and crawl down in it and wait, because this is going to happen. It's mathematical certainty at this point. What else is going on?
Renting, I've never been a fan of renting. I'm a business major. I'm also a real estate agent. As you know, I don't recommend renting, but right now I think renting is not a bad idea. I think it's a really good idea maybe to invest, like Zach said, in the hard assets and hold and rent. Also, networking is good. A lot of the people in this area network. They help each other out. They do barter and trade type things. You help take care of the land, you help take care of the livestock, and you can stay on our property for X amount of time. Those kinds of situations are good too, if you can find someone. Yeah. It's just about biding your time right now. Biding your time and waiting. And like I said, don't stay in the cities though. I just want to make
out.
that clear. We're not promoting that. We do not think that's a good idea under
out.
any circumstances to stay in a overpopulated area.
Get out.
You need to get out and maybe just lower your expectations. So
yeah. And again, I just with all of the looking at where the rich people are put, BlackRock is another example. Bill Gates is doing all this, but BlackRock, they're buying every piece of property they can get their hands on, every square foot of land they can get their hands on. It's because they're trying to put money into places that they know is not, because you can only buy so much. If you're one of these major corporations, you can only buy so much gold, silver, and some of these corporations are even buying crypto now. They're buying Bitcoin and other things.
This commenter said, turn your paper into digital. So he said, 1933, Roosevelt told people to trade in their gold for paper and tin. Today, turn your paper in for digital.
Yeah. Turn their gold for paper and tin.
It was hard times then.
Yeah.
Some people here renting and happy to be renting. One viewer said that they've been out of the city for 10 years and never looked back. And that's the thing. I think once you get out, you won't ever go back. There's so much freedom in having your own property and being resourceful and being able to grow your own food and things. What is your opinion on owner financing from a biblical viewpoint?
Owner financing from a biblical viewpoint.
It's a loaded question.
So usury in the Bible is an abomination. So normally I don't talk about this sort of stuff on this channel, but we'll go ahead and do it. But usury in the Bible is an abomination. It's every time usury is mentioned, it's used in the negative context. Okay, so I don't think you should be placing yourself in debt or place other people who are you fellowship with in debt. I think you should be careful about that sort of thing. That's all really. Yeah. But as far as lending out to people, if to the world and business and stuff like that, that's fine. But if you're doing business with people who are family, who are friends, I think you should be very careful when it comes to that, because that's how the Father sees it. And the reason he calls it an abomination is simple. It creates slaves.
Yeah, there's a scripture that actually says the borrower is a slave to the lender.
Right.
So we don't really want to promote that.
And the biblical version of slavery, it could be lots of things. It's not roots. Americans think of slavery. Well, the Bible promotes slavery. No. You're thinking of roots. That movie has corrupted our version of slavery. What happened, in this country is not what the Bible's talking about. Slavery meant you could sell yourself into slavery. You could sell yourself into slavery to pay off a debt or to do other things. But the Bible's very clear that if you take another Hebrew and sell that person into slavery, the punishment for that is death. Okay, the actual roots type slavery. If you do that, the punishment is death. People have a convoluted view of slavery from the Bible. The Bible does not condone slavery. Anyway, and usury creates slavery. Usury does. So we should not be partaking in slavery.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So someone mentioned inventory, the low inventory, like how difficult it is to find land. Do you still think that it's not worth paying like top of the market for this property if they find something that they love, because it is very hard to find?
It's scary, man. Like, what if you paid what if you paid $400,000 now for a piece of property that you could pay $100,000 or even $50,000 for, a year from now?
Yeah, I think that's where fear can come in pretty easily. I just wanted to point that out. Like,
Especially
there's no land left. There's not going to be anything left.
No, there's
Keep
always
in
land
mind,
left.
when the crash happens, not all this land is owned free and clear. People finance this land. They're not going to be able to pay the taxes on it. So don't buy into the fear
There's
that
so
there's
much
not gonna be
land, even around here, that's owned by people who don't live here. They live out of state or they live in these big cities. And they're holding on to it now for sentimental reasons, because mom and dad lived there, or maybe they grew up there, or maybe it's just the old, whatever. There's lots of reasons they may own it, or maybe they're using it and leasing it out. It's a part of a business for them. But if times get tough in those city areas, they want to maintain their lifestyle as best they're possible. They'll unload that quicker.
Yes.
They want to maintain that lifestyle.
There will be land available when the crash happens. I promise you.
Yes.
That is, and even historically, not even a crash like that we will see. That's what investors do.
Yeah.
They hold. They put their money in hard assets. They hold and they buy when the market drops.
That's the way it is everywhere in rural America. There's land owned by so many people who don't live in those areas. And if times get tough, they will unload it.
Yeah,
and
because they won't be able to maintain it all.
Yeah. No. And they'll need money. They want to maintain their lifestyle for as long as they can, where they live.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. It's that way everywhere.
Guns and ammo never goes to zero.
Yep. Guns and lead, brass, and what's lead, brass, and copper are all worth money.
Yes.
So, yeah. And speaking of that, let's go to this next article. I want to show you this right here. LA's arms race of the affluent. This is an article that came out from the Los Angeles Magazine, and this is about an affluent. There's only really one gun store in Beverly Hills, California, and it serves a lot of largely affluent clientele, as you can see here in the article. And let me zoom in on that so you can read it better. It says, since opening in July 2020, the store has seen upscale residents from Santa Monica to the Hollywood Hills increasingly in a panic following several high-profile smash-and-grab violent home invasion robberies. Now, this is in Beverly Hills. Smash and grab, violent home invasion robberies. And this goes back to what you're saying, get out of the city.
Yes. You don't want to be there. No. People are going to be desperate.
Because where do they hit first? They hit the places where they can get the most bang for their buck.
The most accessible, yeah. It's going to be suburbia.
If you live in a nice neighborhood, they're coming to you first.
Yeah.
Because your stuff's worth more than the people who live in the little lower scale neighborhoods, right? And that's what's happening in Beverly Hills. The apparent siege has brought in a daily stream of anxious business owners and prominent actors, real estate moguls, and film execs, says owner Russell Stewart. Most are arming themselves for the first time. All these liberals get religion real quick and in a hurry.
Now they see what we're talking about. A little late to the party, but okay.
Exactly. This morning, I sold 6 shotguns in about an hour to people that say, I want a home defense shotgun, says Stewart, whose store was discreetly located in a Beverly Hills office building with no sign on the doors down the hall from a diamond dealer. Everyone has a general sense of constant fear, which is very sad. We're used to this being like Mayberry. That fear has the wealthiest of local gentry contemplating every more elaborate security measures, armored luxury cars, safe rooms, and bulletproof glass in their homes. One client asked about creating the Tony Stark level security of a half-dozen automated drones to hover over his house. Good grief. Says Stewart, whose gun store is part of his larger security company, Force Protective Agency. If you want the Gucci package, it's going to cost money, he says. The security business is experiencing a rebound after a couple of diminished years because of the pandemic. Some firms had their on-site security guards sent home for health and social distancing reasons. Not anymore. In Beverly Hills, the craving for additional security dates to the riot that followed an otherwise peaceful Black Lives Matter protest in May 2020, with an unprecedented looting along Rodeo Drive that left broken boutique windows beneath beloved luxury brands. Chanel, Dior, Gucci, Michael Kors, MCM, I don't even know what that word is. Last March, a $500,000 Richard Mille watch was stolen at gunpoint. A $500,000 watch?
Good grief.
Who wears a $500,000 watch?
I don't know.
Why?
Why would you need a $500,000? I can do so much. Let me see that watch.
It's hard to feel sorry for that.
I don't, yeah.
Isn't it? I feel, My heart goes out to Richard.
That is frivolous.
Poor Richard.
I guess if you have the 500,000 sitting around, why not buy a watch?
Oh, I mean, goodness gracious, there's so many things you could do at 500 grand. Okay, the December 1st home invasion robbery and shooting death of philanthropist Jacqueline Avant, 81, in her Tuesdale Estates home only accelerated the arms race among the affluent. Beverly Hills is definitely a target, says security expert David Perez, CEO of Omega International Group and a former Marine who previously worked security in the Clinton White House and at the Pentagon. We're telling clients, hey, don't go out with flashy jewelry. Try to keep a lower profile. Instead of driving the Bentley, maybe just drive or take the SUV. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a part in here where he talks about what I just said. Let's see. The city and its population are fully aware that they've become an inviting target. If you're going to steal a $400,000 watch, you're going to go down. Are you going to go down to San Pedro or are you going to go down to Beverly Hills? Yeah, it's obvious. The crooks are going to go where the money's at first.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And if you're living in one of these neighborhoods where most of these people don't own guns and they don't have any security, they don't have, watchdogs or things like that. Yeah, that's where they're going to go. And really your security is only. It's not, if you do have security, it's, what good is it going to be? Unless you have a gun to protect yourself, guys. Mm-hmm. There's no way the cops are going to get there in time to get your stuff back or save your life. You better take security into your own hands. But that's the world we're living in today. Mm-hmm. Right now, even Beverly Hills, they're arming up. What is that, a Walther PPK? Mm-hmm. I think it's a Walther PPK. Someone can leave a comment in below. Tell me what that is. I think it's a Walther PPK. Looks like my P64 Polish Makarov.
So that article kind of brings a question to mind. So for people who are just starting with all of this, would you recommend that they get resources together such as protection, guns and ammo, food, and
get a gun,
and Band-Aids before they worry about investing in land? I feel like do the basics first, or would you recommend that they go ahead and start investing in having that recurring self-sustaining?
I think it's good to have some basic stocks right now when it comes to having a firearm, having some ammo, having some training with that firearm. Really go get a class, take a class, and feel comfortable with that gun if you had to use it. I think having some ways to filter water is probably your most important thing to have. Some way to filter water, either on the go or, a Berkey. You can't carry a Berkey everywhere you go, but having a water filter that will filter 100,000 gallons or 50,000 gallons, like a Katadyn or some other Vario water filter that will allow you to do that. You can be on the move and filter. Water is so important. And if
water is one of the most
catastrophes was the biggest thing. Like when what was the hurricane that came into New Orleans? Katrina hit. The first thing you're hearing about in the news is water. What are people going to drink? The water's you can't drink the water. They're worried about dead bodies floating in the water and everything. What are they going to drink? And if you have a water filter, you've solved that problem, and that's as a human being, that's your most important problem. First off, you have to have a way to drink water.
Yeah, I brought that up because I think there are people on here who are in the city. They don't have the means to get out. They feel stuck, but I think there's a lot they can be doing with extra money they do have like that to prepare, and then look at buying land as more of a long-term goal. Yeah. But there are things you can do to prepare. It's not hopeless. So
yeah, it's not
do what you can.
It's never hopeless. No. You can always do something. Yeah. Your biggest survival tool is always going to be a positive attitude.
Absolutely. They say the mindset, the knowledge is really the power.
Knowledge is good. Get as much knowledge as you can, but always maintain a positive attitude. And I know that's hard for some people because we like to anxiety and fear. It's just everywhere, pervasive everywhere throughout our society, and we just have to fight that. Try to resist that. But yeah, beans, bullets, and Band-Aids is good to have. Start with a little bit to get you confidence, make you feel better, and then food stocks, things like that. But then other things as well.
Offgrid Victory says God, groceries, guns, ammo, and gold. The 4 Gs.
The 4 Gs. God, groceries.
Start there. Yeah. That's a good idea. And someone said crawl before you walk. I think it's good to take steps. This doesn't happen overnight. Yeah. And Zach will be the first person to tell you, having a homestead is a lot of work. And it takes years.
And it takes maintenance, and it takes time. Yeah, it takes time to build. And for the first couple of years, moving off grid into a homestead, you're going to be in survival mode. You're going to be in survival mode.
It's going to be a change.
Yeah, and then things will eventually lighten up a little bit, and you can kind of enjoy life a little bit more. But for a long time, it's going to be every day, get up and go, get up and go, get up and go.
This person says, how long do we have before the big crash? Months, years?
You don't know. I can't. I can't believe it survived past 2008. We knew it was coming, but it managed to survive. So there's no way to. Hi from Harrison.
We try not to predict and give timelines.
Yeah, you can't give
like that. We can only look at history and know what
we
know is coming.
Any day now. Yeah.
And I think it could be as unexpected as COVID. It could swoop in and really catch a lot of people off guard.
Listen, the Fed right now says they want to raise interest rates. Okay, they're saying they're going to taper. Okay, that's what taper means. So they use all these words that you don't really know. The financial news comes on and they say all this gobbledygook, and you don't know what they're talking about. But when they say I'm going to taper, that means they're going to raise interest rates.
Yeah.
Okay, they're loaning out money at a higher rate of interest, but they're printing all this money into existence and they're lending it out. And the Federal Reserve is printing this and they're lending it out. And if they raise interest rates, you're going to have what's called a deflationary collapse, and that's what happened in the 1920s. Okay, a deflationary collapse. Stock market will tumble. If they don't raise interest rates, they're going to have to keep the money printing going. And that's what's keeping the market up, keeping the market pumped up. And that's called quantitative easing. So you hear that word, quantitative easing. When you hear that word, quantitative easing, or there's another word for it too. I can't remember it now. But when you hear those words, all it does is mean money printer go burr. They're just printing that money as fast as they possibly can. And they're throwing it out there into the public. And that means a hyperinflation collapse, a hyperinflationary collapse. Those are the two options. A deflationary collapse if they raise interest rates, and if they keep money printing, an inflationary collapse. The inflationary collapse goes on longer. Okay, it takes longer to happen. But once it happens, both have the same end result, a collapse. But the inflationary collapse takes longer to happen, and it's actually way more painful. The deflationary collapse, really painful, but it gets over quick. And you can begin your recovery in your rebuild.
Paul David made a comment. I just want to see your thoughts on this. The crash has already happened. Most don't realize it.
Yeah, it's happening now. Yeah, it's happening.
I agree. So another commenter mentioned, is this going to be abrupt? Is this going to be slow? I mean, yes, I believe it was gradual, but I believe we are in it, and I don't think we've seen the repercussions of it. One of the things Zach and I were talking about yesterday, I think, or a couple days ago, was the stimuluses. I want to encourage everybody, don't become dependent on those.
Yeah.
That is sort of an agenda.
Yeah.
So they get everybody, dependent on these monthly stimuluses, and what's going to happen when that stops? That I'm concerned about.
It's like taking heroin away from an addict.
Yeah.
If
they're doing something by
you have a lifestyle that you are comfortable living in, when that free money comes in to your mailbox, take that money, or if it comes into your account, whatever. When that money comes in, take that money and put it towards something hard asset. You can put it on beans, bullets, Band-Aids, gold, silver, something.
Those are all good things.
Put that money into something like that you're saving, and don't spend it. Don't make that part of your lifestyle. Don't get accustomed to that money coming in. It's going to be bad if you do.
Don't become dependent on it. Don't use it for mortgages and
it's free money.
All that.
Put it where they don't want you to put it, and put it into something like gold, silver, beans, bullets, Band-Aids, water filters, something like that.
Within 100 years.
within 100 years. Yeah, I'd safely say within 100 years we're going to have a collapse.
Yes, somebody made a comment, be healthy. Zach and I are health nuts too. We really try to work on eating healthy, high protein, vegetables, low fat stuff. And just even OMAD that Zach does, eating once a day. Those are all things that you can do. Buying land is a great conversation, but there's a lot that you can do if you can't buy land too.
Your health is so important, and so many of your health problems that America has today can just be solved by losing weight, eating better, getting rid of sugar out of your diet. You'll be surprised at all the health things you can fix by just doing those things. And I know there's so many people who are addicted to sugar, addicted to the horrible diets that we have in America. But if you can be disciplined and get yourself in a better place when it comes to your diet and health, because what happens if you can't get your medicine anymore? What happens if you can't go to your doctor anymore? And we've talked about this before too. Is I think the healthcare system is going to go into a black market environment. I don't want to go to the hospital. I wouldn't go to the hospital now unless I was dying of something catastrophic like a major trauma. I'm not going to the hospital. Why? Not going to the doctor.
I'm a nurse too, so we have a little bit of the inside scoop on healthcare.
Yeah.
So let's just say that, there's going to be a lot of people not wanting to go in this current climate that we're in.
Best thing you can do is just get healthy.
Stay healthy as much as you can, absolutely. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. What about Social Security? Social Security will keep going forever.
I think Tim made a comment that they're increasing Social Security, I believe.
See, that was the thing that Republicans and Democrats always fought over all the time, is that the other side's trying to take away your Social Security. They're not going to take away Social Security, not ever. They're just going to print it into existence if they need to. That's all they'll do. They're not going to be like, oh, well, things are really tight now, Mr. and Mrs. America. We just can't send you your Social Security check this month. No. They'll print it, and then they'll send it to you. And your buying power at the store will go down. Simple.
Kathy wants to know, if you have investments, how can you protect your money?
Get out of everything paper. Again, not a financial advisor, okay? But get out of everything paper. If you own stocks, get out. You always buy low, sell high. The market is at the highest it's ever been. Sell.
Yeah, I agree. It's not going to go any higher.
If it was me,
they're not expecting it to.
No, I mean, and they could, if they keep doing QE, it'll go higher and higher and higher. If they taper and they raise interest rates, it'll crash. That's how it works. That's how it worked in the 1920s.
It's a risk to hold your properties right now, though.
Yeah. If you own stocks, sell. If you own bonds, sell, because there's no interest anymore anyway.
Again, not a financial advisor.
I'm not a financial advisor. If this was me and I own stocks and bonds,
just our opinion.
Anything paper, sell. Anything if you hold gold or silver ETFs, sell. All it is paper. It doesn't exist anyway. You put it into hard assets. Trying to think what else. Anything paper, just get out of it. It's worthless.
I like David. He said the stimulus last year bought him still body armor, a few ARs, and a few thousand rounds.
There you go.
That's a good investment with that stimulus. Yeah. I like that.
401ks, if you own a 401k, get out. I know you'll take a penalty. You'll take a penalty.
Yeah.
This is what I did. We did. I had a 401k, and I cashed it out. Okay, when I moved off grid,
I would cash that out as well.
I took a penalty, but I sold it. I got rid of it, and I would totally do that. I would get rid of if it was me, I'd get rid of my 401k. Some people are unlucky. Like a number of years ago, they started putting in the fine writing, or what's that called? The little type. I don't know. I'm thinking of the word. I can't think of it now.
Fine print?
Fine print. That's it. They put in fine print.
So you can't see it.
Yeah,
you don't know what you don't know what they're talking about.
Right. They put in the fine print that you can't cash out of your 401k anymore. Some people are in 401ks they can't cash out of anymore. You have to wait until you're a certain age before you can do it. You used to be able to do it with a penalty, but for some 401ks you can't anymore, and they're doing that by design. They don't want you cashing out.
That is correct.
Yeah, but get out. If you can get out of your 401k, anything paper, get out. You sell when the market. You sell, buy low, sell high. Right? If the market's as high as it's ever been, get out.
Yeah. Somebody made a comment back to the student loans that they're not. You can't. Bankruptcy does not clear student loans. Very, very true. So anyone who doesn't know that, if you have college-age kids, do not let them borrow money. People get in that and then stay in that for life. It's a terrible.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Buy them a couple acres of land instead. Let them do a trade.
If you get any student loans, make sure you get federal student loans. Don't do private. Just don't do private student loans. They will own you forever. I know because I did that.
I think we all did the student loan mistake. Well, not all of us. A lot of us that did the college education.
Most of my student loans was private loans, and it was the worst thing worst mistake I ever did. I should have just done federal. I should have been smarter about that. When I was in my 20s, I had no idea. And so I could have done a lot of other options to get through college besides private loans. Federal loans are different. At some point, Elizabeth Warren is going to ride to our rescue, and she will get rid of all the federal student loans. And God bless her. But the private loans, you're going to be owing forever. And again, it's the interest. You're going to pay off your student loans long before you pay off your student loans because you're going to pay it in interest. So I'm not one of these people who say you should get out of these student loans. You should pay what you borrow. I get that. I get that. But you're going to pay so much interest that you're going to pay so much more than what you actually borrowed. It's criminal. Yeah. You should not have that. And when you're 20 years old, you don't know any better. And so they understand that you're 20 years old and you're stupid, and you're 18 years old, you go off to college, you don't know nothing. You're dumb. You're an idiot. Okay? And you're only going to learn through life's experience.
Tell us how you really feel.
Well, once you're in your 40s you'll begin
Please
to.
don't say that to your children.
Yeah. I tell my kids, you're an idiot. You know nothing.
Tell them they don't know anything. Yeah.
So, but when you're in your 40s, you've learned a lot of the mistakes you've made, and so you should listen to the people who have been there, and you've paid so much more of that debt than you actually borrowed. It's criminal what they're doing to people.
It is. It is criminal. It's heartbreaking to see what they're doing to these kids.
They're taking advantage of your youth and inexperience.
Yeah, and so many kids don't have parents advising them, and so they get into these situations, and they're sold the American dream, and the next thing you know, they're in debt for life, and they're enslaved.
For life. Because of my private student loans, even though I pay extra on my student loans every month, I'll be paying them off in my 60s.
I know. Maybe not. Maybe not. If we can, be like all these investors and swoop in and buy all this.
If someone
land when
sends
the
me
market drops.
if someone sends me a couple Bitcoins, I'll be able to pay off my student loans.
Pell grants are good. Yes.
If you got Bitcoins out there, I have a Bitcoin address on my website at AmericanHomestead.com. You can send me a couple of Bitcoin. I'll pay off my student debt. Thank you. All right, pretty good.
Yeah, this person said he has 1,000 batteries for bartering. Yeah, stock up on what you have access to for bartering and trading.
The two things that you can always make money from in a collapse is knowing how to butcher an animal and knowing how to distill alcohol. If you can do those two things, you will always survive a collapse, guaranteed.
There was someone on here that said they had a large tract of land and they had to sell it to pay the taxes. Now what? Hold. Take those profits from that land if you have, hopefully it's free and clear, and
hopefully
invest in
the
hard
taxes
assets
didn't
and
take
hold.
up. Yeah, hopefully you got
Let
some
it
money
grow.
left over from selling that land. You can buy some more land or whatever, free and clear, and be able to afford the taxes.
I'm all about waiting. Be patient.
Yeah.
Put it in hard assets and hold. Wait.
Yeah.
Wait for the right time. It's going to happen.
There's going to be a lot of people like that who can't afford taxes on the land. Like I said, the amount of delinquent taxes in our county alone this year was double than when it was last year, it looked like.
As a real estate agent, people are not buying these huge houses anymore. They're really not. People are waking up, and these huge houses sit, sometimes brand new construction sit empty. They can't afford the heat. They can't afford the heat. They can't afford the taxes. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
Indeed. Anything else?
I'm looking. Let's see.
Silver Soul, it works. I think that's colloidal silver. Someone was talking about. Yeah, I cannot take my 401A out until I quit my job.
Some of you guys are locked in too.
Yeah.
You can't cash in.
My private loan is killing me. I get it. I'm the same one. I'm the same way.
Is IRA considered paper? Good question.
Yes, no, it depends on how your IRA is structured. You can have an IRA. You can actually get physical gold and silver that you hold and keep yourself and have it in an IRA. Or you can convert an IRA, an existing IRA, into physical gold and silver that you can keep and hold. So check out that. There are people who deal in that. You can find companies who will help you transfer your existing IRA into a physically held by you IRA, where you hold it.
This person says she paid off her school loans in 2020, I think, and her credit score went down.
Yeah. They penalize you for paying off your debt. Yeah,
my goodness.
And it's my experience too, because the more you pay towards your student loan debt, and we've done this, the more they penalize you in that way too. They don't want you paying extra on your student loan debt, so they'll penalize you, or they'll switch around payment times in order to get you or to catch you in a late payment in order to charge you more for a late payment. They've done that to us before too. They're crooks. These companies like Navient and we used to be Sallie Mae. They're crooks. They're out there to get as much money and to keep you on the hook as long as they possibly can.
I am Zach's wife, just so you all know. Some people think I'm his girlfriend. Wife. Just so you know. I think we made that introduction on Patreon.
Patreon.com.
A lot of people don't know. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we can go out on that. But Patreon.com is where we talk more about behind the scenes stuff. We show behind the scenes footage of things, and I usually come up with a couple videos each month. And there's giveaways sometimes on there. We need to actually do another giveaway coming up soon. for some T-shirts and stuff like that. But if you're interested, patreon.com/An-American Homestead. You can find the link in the description below of the video and get all the information on over there. So
yes, I'm planning on getting my real estate license in Arkansas. Zach and I are planning on having a brokerage in American Homestead Realty.
Yep.
So we're looking forward to that.
It's going to be great. So because there's a lot of people who contact us wanting to know, where can we move or whatever.
And Zach and I are doing what we're telling you. If you're on Patreon, we're working on finishing up My House to Sell. Mm-hmm. So we've got some. I think that's on Patreon.
No,
is that on our regular
the title
channel?
video was actually on the main channel, so we showed that.
So yeah, we're doing that. We're doing repairs and getting ready to sell. So we're doing exactly what we're telling you guys we think you should do. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We're doing it too. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate you tuning in. Hit that subscribe button if you're not a subscriber, and make sure you hit the like button before you go. I really appreciate it. And be sure to check out all of our merch at teespring.com. Also, link in the description below. You got some great shirts on there. Our Stupid to Hurt shirt. Mm-hmm.
And we've got some new girl T-shirts too.
Yes,
coming out that are really cute.
No, they're up now.
Oh, they are up now. So check that out.
Yeah,
the chicken shirt and
sweatshirt. The chicken shirt. My pets make me breakfast.
Yeah, those are really fun.
so
I'm glad that we're getting more of those.
If you click on the link below, you'll take it over there. You'll see all the shirts, but you can find all of our chicken shirts now. So
ladies, check those out. I think you'll like them.
Yeah. All right, guys. Love you guys. See you next time in the homestead. Bye.